I wanted to do this video earlier and I just didn't because I want these videos to be concise, clear, and to the point. Representative Louie Gohmert, Republican, Texas, he asked a Forest Service employee, he asked the lady if they or the Bureau of Land Management could alter the orbit of the moon or the earth in order to fight climate change during a House Natural Resource hearing. Now, it actually shocked me. It actually shocked me to hear this because this is another example of something I give you guys very often, which is surprise that the social Overton window has moved. I said it when Nancy Pelosi and other high-level Democrats kneeled after George Floyd was murdered and the Kente Clause. That wouldn't happen 20 years ago. I've talked about this before. They would have said we want to be taken seriously. We're with Middle America, and they said he probably deserved it. Back in the police. The fact that Louie Gohmert is even joking about climate change is key. I think it is. It's like hearing people talk about the Palestinians being murdered over there by Israeli military forces. Same thing. It's you wouldn't have seen this 20 years ago. You wouldn't. And the protests and everything that's come out is good, but the fact that this political will, there's questioning, there's some doubt. Maybe a small doubt. There's some doubt about where America's going. I take it as a victory for the left. Let's speak on this. Obviously, he says here, Louie Gohmert is acknowledging there's a problem with climate change. One small step for sanity, one giant leap for the GOP. I missed that part. I mean, I think what's happening is you're coming to an era now to where just complete anti-scientific bullshit doesn't work. And I think Republicans they understand that, or they want to do something different. I don't know. I think that's what you're looking at. I mean, what he said is a joke. It's actually shocking to me someone could be so fucking stupid and be an elected official. Moving Earth out of orbit could send us into an ice age. I would have known that back when I was in middle school, that it's all perfect. The Earth's orbit, stay on subject. Here's something else too, Mr. Gohmert. Do you not realize that the Earth's tides, sea tides, are somewhat reliant upon the moon? If you move Earth's orbit, that'll affect. I don't want to get into this. I don't want to get angry. I don't want to start ranting here. But seeing stuff like this and seeing how stupid some people really are, it's a little scary. It's a little dumb that in 2021, someone can't just, go on Wikipedia and look up a question. It's also kind of bad because we've been having these discussions about climate change for decades. And it's almost like these Republicans, after being serious, hear me out, I'm going to go there. It's almost like, hey, you guys are just not realizing how serious times are. That's scary too. That bothers me a little bit too. I'm not happy about that. Just that they're getting it. The fact it took you this long to understand the dire straits we're facing, that's pretty bad. It's problematic. I don't believe he's serious. I think this is just more of the same of virtue signaling, of appearing to care about something that you don't care about, appearing to give credence to something you don't give credence to. I think we're coming to an era now. Because, like, so much when I was a kid, so much of like climate change stuff for bumpkins were like, we don't believe in it. And, if you believe in God and you believe in climate change, you don't really have faith in God. I've talked about that before. I heard that when I was younger. Mm-hmm. Because God's got us. God's got everything. So if you're worried about earthquakes or floods, you don't put your faith in God. Yep. That's what I was told when I was a kid. Yep. I think that era is kind of coming to an end. I think people want genuine government action on these issues, and it's not good enough to just play stupid. It's fucking stupid. It's stupid and it's fucking irresponsible. And I've talked about that. I believe, the danger of religion, to a certain extent, is it gives people a gold-plated reason to not care about anything. That's a problem. Not all, but some people, and you have your fanatics. I think that this is another evolution in Republican thought. I talked about this in another video how I think the Christians, the next hustle for the evangelicals, the next hustle is gonna be okay, these things exist. Climate change exists. Okay, these things exist. But that this is the end of the world, and so these things are supposed to happen. That's the next hustle. So for so long you've told people we don't believe in any of that stuff. It's all up conspiracy theory. It's all designed to water down Christianity. Because if you're a Christian, if you believe in God, you're supposed to just believe in God, period, and not care about this stuff. You've told that pack of lies for 20, 30, 40 years. And now you're facing reality. You're facing crazy weather. You're facing hotter summers. You're facing all this stuff. And you can't downplay it now. And so the next hustle is, okay, it's real. But that, and somehow tie that back into end times. That's the next hustle. I always tell people when I watch these videos, I make these videos about the late great planet Earth. Read that book. They've been doing this for a long time. They've been pushing the end times bullshit for a long time. A long time. That everything's the end times, everything is communism, everything is gay. There's nothing new about this. So the next hustle is going to be, see, it's almost like, to me, people like Gohmert are trying to buy time. That's a vibe I get. They're trying to buy time, which is to always deny. And then 10 years from now, they'll be like, okay, I'll give you one small thing, and then I'll take this. You see, it's like it's they're always twisting and perverting and they're always twisting the intellectual discussion at hand. I think that's kind of interesting to see. In everything. And everything you can think of. I think I talk about climate change because that's something that talked about for a very long time. People have been talking about for a very long time, and I think with COVID, I think with other issues we're facing, I think these issues are kind of interlinked. I think these pandemics are kind of enhanced by these crazy weather patterns we've had. Bomber effect weather in the Midwest and stuff like that. I mean, some of this weather isn't supposed to happen. It's supposed to happen like close to the water. Nobody even talks about it. This isn't even a discussion anymore. This weather we see. I just think that I don't think Representative Gohmert is taken seriously. Let me say that. I'm at that point now that with the bumpkins, with white trash, it's hard for me to even take them seriously. Period. Him saying that about moving to orbit, it's almost like a child. It's like a child that gets in an adult's conversation. Like imagine you have some adults talking at the table and some kid walks up and they're like talking about somebody they know is in the hospital or something. The kid comes up and says something dumb. It's just like they wouldn't even respond other than like change the subject or something. That's how I feel about it. You're not a grown up. You're not mature. You're not worthy to even be in these type of discussions that mankind is our future kind of hinges upon the decisions made at this. I believe climate change is over. I believe runaway. It's too late. I've talked about that before. I have no optimism about climate change. One thing I've learned is nothing's even being done about it. and the thing about climate change is they want to push it all about individual stuff. That means nothing. It's got to be corporations, and it's got to be international agreements to go anywhere with this. There's just one little area that's not going to do it. Not going to do it. I think that this is important. I almost forgot it. This is important. I was going to talk about this earlier. I've talked about this in other videos. I think that when it comes to technology to mitigate climate change, I think that it's probably good we don't have some type of a magic machine that could just destroy end a lot of it right now, because I think that people would get a false sense of security. I hate this. It sounds bad, but I really believe that if you had a magic machine, some type of magic to clean up the waters and all that stuff, like in a flash, I think people would just be okay. We can do more pollution. We can make more. And I think like that's what I learned with people like Trump is that you got a bunch of idiots, a bunch of bumpkins out here who they'll believe that. Like he said, clean water, clean air. Someone do the same thing. If you had some kind of technology that could, maybe clean things up a little bit, they say, "Oh, see, it's no big deal." What I'm saying basically is, it's like if some guy spills a 2 liter or liter or whatever of soda, and I come in there and I clean up I pick up like one napkin full, I just wipe a little bit. Okay, it's good enough. Still a mess. I mean, it might have seeped off the counter. I might have to wipe down the side of it might have seeped in somewhere. But you understand the problem is much bigger than just what's on the surface at that point. And I think that context, that's what Trump talking about clean water, clean air tells you. That's what Gohmert telling you about. Can we alter Earth's orbit or the sun's orbit? First of all, why would you want to? Obviously, we can't, but why would you want to do that? I just think that all this stuff is about a certain kind of false security to the bumpkins. It's like a certain false security that we're to the young people out here who might have a brain, who might know something, who are concerned about climate change. This is to give them a sense of, well, we're doing something. We did have hearings. We are talking about it, and nothing will change. Nothing's supposed to change, and there's no will for anything to change. I just like I said, I believe the movie is a movie out there called Ecostorm. It's called Ecostorm. They had like a net of satellites all over the world, and satellites could do things to kind of like mitigate the worst factors of climate change. So you wouldn't have the storms wouldn't be really strong. It wouldn't get too hot and all. I almost feel like now It's a good movie. But if you had that type of stuff, people would lose sight of the realities that we face of what sea level rise will look like. All these countries where people live beside the waters and have lived on these lands for hundreds of years. What are they going to do when that salt water rises up and their land is no longer arable? What are they going to do? This will lead to violence. This will lead to wars. Climate change isn't just about getting a little hotter, folks. Climate change is about a world of conflict. It's about a world of refugees in lands that are no longer habitable. It's going to affect the mosquitoes and the bugs. It's gonna create, cause more disease to spread, malaria and such. This is what climate change is. The fact that you have state reps talking about moving Earth's orbit in the face of all this, it's distressing. It's like Louie, pick up a book. There's plenty of books out here about climate change, and it's bothersome that you have these professors and stuff that did speeches and talks back in the 90s and 2000s. We're not living in that world. We're living in this world. We're living in this reality that they predicted. And the only thing that people like Louie Gohmert can talk about is how can we create some type of a rapid shift to alter this hell we're going to have, because we can't do anything about, because they're not going to admit they're wrong, because that would mean having to do something about pollution. That would mean doing something about the very philosophy of the Republican Party in Texas. Now, that's a video in and of itself. That would mean some very complex and controversial moves on his part. And I'm just not sure they have the balls to do it. So no, we won't do anything about this. We'll just push forward radical shifts that are dangerous, are reckless, and this don't make any sense at all whatsoever. It bothers me that so much of the world we live in was foretold in the RoboCop series. I've talked about this before on here. Look at the third movie, the raid units. People being evicted from their homes for gentrification. Ain't that what's going on with Black Rock? Buying up all that property? Those hotels and stuff? People are staying in extended stay hotels? That's what Raid was doing. It was Cadillac Heights in the movie. They were just taking everybody out of the joints. And they were putting it out in the movie like, oh, these are criminals, they're druggies. And RoboCop he's seen it, recorded it. No, these were people. They had, just living. They were, RoboCop talked about like that competition between America and China, like on an extreme level. But see, in RoboCop, it was like, I think there was like a kid in there that was like studying trigonometry or something. In that movie, it was like capitalism was really, really extreme, but the people were smarter, I guess you'd say. I don't really see that in America. I see this wish for war. Like we're not going to compete with China. We're going to just go kill them. We're going to just go bomb them or whatever. That's going to end the argument. RoboCop, you had defund the police. RoboCop, you had they call it the zero fatality mandate. Mm-hmm. They didn't have rifles. They had staffs. Remember, they had stuff like they didn't have no rifles. That was the second or third movie. Yeah, the zero fatality mandate. That bothers me. That bothers me that the world we're living in, people warned us and tried to warn us. And nothing was done. And I can watch something that was made in the 90s that fucking has parallels to my life today. BlackRock. Look it up. Buying up all that property. And people still believe in capitalism. That somehow you think you're going to compete with somebody that can go out and buy 65,000 what do you call it? Uh, it was hotel rooms or something, extended stay hotel rooms. You think you can compete with that? It just, I don't know. I don't want to do a lot of videos on people like Representative Louie Gohmert. I don't think he's worth talking about intellectually or otherwise. I think he's an embarrassment to his state. I think he's an embarrassment to the country that someone could be this goddamn stupid in 2021 to actually ask about moving Earth off its axis. And just the arrogance of this man, the arrogance to believe that America can make that decision. That's what I shoot on all day. It's just in the back of my head. Just that this man is so arrogant. I mean, think about that. I'm gonna actually talk about doing this, and I don't care what the rest of the world thinks. This thing ain't over with. Trump leaving office didn't end this. Trump leaving office exposed how dumb and ignorant these people really are, and how diehard they are to hold on to the last vestiges of this antiquated idea of America. Thank you for listening.